Resourceful Designer, episode 31. You are more than just a graphic designer.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer Podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing. And now, your host. His favorite soda is root beer, Mark DeCote.
Welcome back to another episode of Resourceful Designer. I hope you've been having a better couple of weeks than I have. As you know, I did not put an episode out of the podcast last week. That's because my brother passed away and I had to hop a plane to Vancouver at the other end of Canada to go to his funeral. It wasn't sudden, it was something we knew was coming. He had liver cancer and we knew it was only a matter of time, but we, the family, we thought he had a couple of months left and it turned into just a few weeks. So in that sense, it was sudden, and that's why there was no episode last week. I was out of town. And of course, this week, that means I'm playing catch up, and which is why the podcast is late this week. I'm putting it out on Friday instead of earlier in the week, because I had to play catch up with all the work that I missed when I was away last week. And to top it all off, this morning I got an email from one of my oldest clients informing me that one of the projects I do for them on a weekly basis, I believe I've talked about it before on the podcast, how I do ads for this one client every Monday morning. I do these ads. Well, the client informed me that they're not going to be doing these ads anymore. And although I'm not surprised, because I've told them in the past that I thought these ads were actually a waste of time, but they kept going on for years and years while they finally changed their marketing plan. And they decided, instead of going with print ads in our local newspaper, they're going to do digital ads on the newspaper's website. And the thing is when they purchase the digital ad space, it comes with free artwork, so they don't need my services to create their ads anymore. Now, I'm not losing them as a client. They're still going to need me for a lot of other things, but that was a nice little bit of income that I was guaranteed on a weekly basis. So sorry to see that go. But I did manage to pick up a couple of other small jobs this week, so hopefully everything will balance out. Now, before I go any further, I'd like to ask for your help. Now, it's kind of funny because back in episode 29, where I talked about design awards and if they're important for your business, and my overall answer was no, winning an award is not really crucial for your business. You can do very well without ever winning an award. But now here I am coming to you asking for your help to win not a design award, but maybe a podcast award. The 11th annual podcasting awards are upon us, and right now is the nomination period. And I would love your help in getting Resourceful Designer nominated for an award. Now, doing so is very easy. All you have to do is visit resourcefuldesigner.com/podcast awards, which will take you to the nomination page, and you'll find all the different categories you can nominate a podcast for. I ask that in the arts category, you nominate Resourceful Designer, and when it asks for the URL, you can put resourcefuldesigner.com. And then feel free to fill out the rest of the form with any other podcasts you listen to, because you only get one chance to send in your nomination form. Once you submit it, you can't go back and fill in a blank spot. So I would love your help in this. It doesn't cost anything, which is why I'm doing it. And it would be a lot of fun if I did get nominated. Once again, to get there, resourcefuldesigner.com/podcast awards. And now, my resource of the week. Now, this is a resource. I actually just discovered it early this week, but I thought it was so fun that I just had to share it. And that's a site called wordmark.it, or Wordmark It. And what this site does is it allows you to type up a couple of words, or maybe one word, two words, or a sentence. And then you click load fonts. And what the website does is it actually looks at your computer to see what fonts you have installed. And then it'll display the text that you typed in every font that you have installed on your computer. Now, what I love about this is it makes it really easy when you're searching for that perfect font for a logo or for a heading or for some website or whatever. I know what I normally do is I'd go into Suitcase, which I've talked to you about before, Suitcase Fusion by Extensis, which is my font management software of choice. In there, you can type up something and it'll display what you typed in all your various fonts. As you cycle through your fonts, you'll see what you typed written out in that font. And that's good, but it takes a long time to cycle through that. But I found that wordmark.it does it really, really quick. And I like the way it displays everything on one page, all side by side. It really fills the page out with everything. And it makes it really easy to look through, to peruse it and say, okay, I like that font and that font. And you can actually select the various fonts and then filter out to only the ones you selected to narrow it down to the fonts you really like. So as I said, I only discovered this early this week, but I've already used it on a couple of jobs and it went so easy. So I encourage you to check it out. Once again, that is wordmark.it and add it to your catalog of resources. So now on to today's topic. You are more than just a graphic designer. Now, I've been a graphic designer for over 25 years, and I've lived in the same area all that time. I actually went to college in my hometown for graphic design. Now, a few years after I went to college, they decided to shut down the program. Not because it was not popular or anything like that. The college actually has 3 campuses across 3 different cities, and they were offering the same program at 2 different campuses. And they decided a few years after I graduated to restructure the way the college did things and not offer the same courses at 2 different campuses. So they decided to move the graphic design program from my hometown to another town. But even though they did this, for several years, because of the graphic design program, there was an abundance of graphic designers in our area. And with only a few printing companies and a few other businesses that might require an in-house designer, that left a lot of graphic designers with no place to get employed. And of course, many of them decided to start up their own businesses. So for a while there was a lot of different graphic designers working from home in my area. But as the years went by, slowly but surely, a lot of them would close up shop. Either they would find employment somewhere, or they would just give up graphic design altogether, thinking there was no work to be found. Now, I've had the privilege of talking with many of those designers. I knew a lot of them going through the program, especially those that graduated in my year and the couple of years after me that I had seen while I was still at school. And when talking to them, one of the biggest issues they would bring up is the lack of steady clients. People would come to them for a job and they would do the job, tell the designer they loved what they did, but then the designer would never hear from them again. Or if they did, it would be a year or sometimes a couple of years later. And they said without those steady clients to do work for, they couldn't sustain their business. And through those conversations with these people, I discovered something. Those that quickly went out of business were selling themselves as a graphic designer and only a graphic designer. And I think that's what did them in. They weren't thinking outside the box. They became what I call yes men or yes women. And what I mean by that is they were there when a client needed something. If a client needed a logo for something or if a client needed a poster for something, they would come to these designers, and these were really good designers. They would design an excellent logo for them, or they would design an excellent poster or website or whatever, and then they would hand it off to the client, and that was it. And then they would stick around and hope that the client liked it enough that they would come back. And as I said, in some cases, the clients did come back, but it might be a year or 2 later before they came back, before they needed the services again. Now, one of the issues involved here, if you've been listening to the podcast since the beginning, way back in episode 2 of Resourceful Designer, and I'll include a link in the show notes if you want to get back to it. The show notes will be at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 31. But an episode 2 of Resourceful Designer titled, Do Your Design Clients Know What You Do? I talked about the issue where people are hiring graphic designers in order to do a job, a specific project, and not knowing that the designer is capable of so much more. In it, I gave an example of my brother-in-law. This is somebody that I've known since high school. He was the annoying brother whenever I was dating who will become my future wife. He was the one that would kind of bug us and you know the way it is. But he was around when I went through school for graphic design. He was around there whenever I graduated. He was around when I worked at the print shop, and he was around when I started my own business. So he, in my opinion, knew what I did. And then when he decided to start his own business, he contacted me and asked me if I could design a logo for him, which I gladly obliged. And I designed a really good logo for his business that he absolutely loved. A week or 2 after supplying him with the finished logo, he sent me an email with a couple of business card designs because he wanted my opinion on which one was the best. And I was all confused because I asked him, I says, well, where did you get these done? And he said, well, I needed business cards printed, so I went to the printer and they designed these for me. And I asked him, I says, well, why didn't you get me to design them? I did your logo. Why didn't you ask me to design your business cards for you? And his response was, I didn't know you did business cards. And I've found over the year that mentality flows through to all clients. They don't necessarily know what you do as a graphic designer. They just know that they have a certain project and they need a graphic designer to do that project. But they don't realize that you can do so much more. And I realized that if my own brother-in-law, who watched me go through school, watched me work at the printer, watched me start my own business, didn't know what I was capable of doing, then how were my other clients ever going to know? And that's what I'm saying. You're more than just a graphic designer. You're more than just somebody that somebody can go to when they have a specific project in mind. You need to be there for them beyond what they think they need you for. And I talk about this in episode 20 of the podcast, building relationships with your graphic design clients, on how you have to create a kind of a partnership with your clients. You're not just their designer. You should be almost a business partner with them, a sounding board, an idea generator. When a client comes to you with an idea for something, don't just say, yes, I can do that, but maybe offer some alternatives if you can think of them. If a client comes to you because they have a new product they want to sell and they want to add it to their website, ask them, instead of just adding it to their website, have you thought of creating a landing page for it and some sort of funnel to get people more interested and an alternative way to discovering your business? This is stuff your client might not have thought of because they're not in the industry that we are, where we're dealing with lots and lots of websites. They're just thinking they have a website, they have a new product, they have to add that product to the website. So if you discuss stuff with them, talk about landing page and sales funnels and the purpose of SEO to get people involved and get people discovering this new product of theirs, they would really, really appreciate that. And then they start to realize the relationship they have with you. You're more than just a graphic designer. The same thing comes for print. Clients don't know everything that can be printed. Sometimes a client will come to me and say, Mark, I need a flyer. And I'll say, well, why do you need a flyer? Well, I have this information that I want to put out and I need this flyer to put on the desk and that. And I'll say, well, there's not really a lot of information. Instead of doing a flyer, why don't you do like a rack card or even a small postcard that has the information? It'll be a lot cheaper than doing a flyer, and we can create a lot of good impact with it. And that's something maybe the client had never considered doing a postcard for it to display on their counter. Give them alternatives. I remember doing work for a client a few years ago, and they came to me saying that they wanted a pop-up wall to go behind their booth because they wanted to do the local trade show market. And I helped them look into the whole thing. And when they found out the price of producing one of these things, they said, sorry, Mark, we can't do this. This is more than our budget allows. So I suggested to them, instead of getting one of these big pop-up walls that costs several $100s, why don't you get 3 of these banner stands that you can get produced for under $100 and just have the artwork continue from one to the other and then put the 3 panels together and create your wall that way. And they loved the idea. So we produced it and they started using it and they got a great response from everybody. They were so much easier to transport because they were super light. And I went to see them at one of the local trade shows and the booth looked absolutely amazing. And because they were able to do this on a budget they can afford, their business flourished because they had no other options otherwise. So that's what happens whenever you start discussing. You become a partner with your clients. You're not just there to do what they want, but you're there to solve a problem for them. These clients wanted to do trade shows but didn't have the budget for a wall. And I found a solution to their problem within a budget they could afford. A similar thing happened to me last year. I have a client who deals in hearing aids. That's all their business is they're a hearing aid clinic. And they were trying to find a way to get their name out in their community. And they had tried newspaper ads and magazine ads, as well as stuffing flyers in these, what I like to call junk mail bags that get delivered door to door. They had tried that with some limited success. But then they came to me and said, Mark, we need to get our name out more in our area. What can we do? So we sat down and we hashed out a whole bunch of different ideas. And what we settled on at the end was to produce a magnet for them with their information. And we had the magnet affixed to a postcard. So that tacky glue type stuff. So I designed an oversized postcard that the magnet would be affixed to. And then to make it easier for distribution, we designed an envelope, a full color envelope that they would put this postcard that had the magnet in. And then we did a mail drop where we hired the postal service to drop one envelope off at every house in their designated area. And they've told me that since doing this, this has been the biggest return for their money so far because they're getting so many referrals. And when they ask people how they heard about them, they're told that they received the magnet and they'd stick the magnet on their fridge. And it was something they didn't know if they needed hearing aids, but they stuck it there. And whenever the time came around, they would remember it. Or they knew of a family member that was having some hearing issues, and it was easier for them to find that information that was stuck to their fridge than to go look for a postcard that they had received several months before. So this client was really grateful for my help for suggesting these things because it's something they hadn't thought of. They were wondering if there were some other publications. Was there a newspaper they had missed that they might want to put an ad in? And when I came in and said, stop doing the newspaper ads, let's try something more direct. Yes, it did cost them a little bit more money, but the return on their investment was tenfold. And they never would have thought of it if I hadn't suggested it. Now, what happens after this is now this client is now coming to me and asking ideas for different things. So I've become more than just a graphic designer to them. I've become their strategic marketing partner. And they'll ask me questions about stuff that I have no business answering. They came to me a couple of months ago and they were asking about television commercials. They wanted to put a television ad on a local network and they were asking my opinion. Well, I don't do television ads. That's way out of my league. And I told them so, but they still wanted to know my opinion because they valued what I had brought to their company so far. And even though I told them that this was outside of my scope, they still wanted to know what I thought. And that's what I mean when I say you're more than just a graphic designer. You won't be able to survive on your own, running your own business, if all you do is the projects that people hire you for. If somebody comes to you for a poster, for a website, for a business card, a logo, whatever, if you just design that, you might make them super happy, but you're not creating a relationship, a partnership. Now, I'm not saying don't design what they come to you for, but talk to them, create a relationship, discuss other ways to do things. And by doing this, when you grow your relationships with these clients, then these clients become something even more than just clients. I have a few clients that I've built such close relationships with over the years that they now come to me whenever they need something. Like they won't even have an idea. They'll just say, Mark, we've got this new event coming up. What do you think we should do about it? And then I would give them all sorts of ideas. Well, you want to promote it? Here are various ways you can promote it. You want something innovative and new? Maybe an invitation done in an origami fold or something. And these clients become your most valuable clients, or clients that come to you and say, I need an ad designed for a magazine that's going to be published where we've bought some ad space. Can you come up with something? And that's all the direction they give you. Can you come up with something? It's because you've become such a good integrated part of their business that they trust you so much that they don't even give you any direction. They just say, here's the dimensions of the ad we bought. Can you come up with something for our business? And trust me, when you get clients that start doing that, where they don't even give you any direction, they just want you to take it over because they trust you that much, those are the clients that will be regular. They're coming to you on a monthly, if not even weekly basis for you to help them. And those are the clients that really make your business grow because they're also the clients that will spread the word, that will refer you. And when they're talking to somebody that tells them that they have an issue or they have a problem, your name is the first one that comes up in the conversation. And when you reach that level, when you become more than just a graphic designer for your clients, that's when you know your business has made it. So the next time a client comes to you asking you to do something, try to think outside the box and see if there's any way you can help them or maybe suggest something different because you never know how you can affect that business. And don't be afraid to tell a client that you don't think their idea is a very good idea. Maybe it's not changing the actual project. If they want a poster done, maybe it's still designing a poster, but changing the content of the poster to something you think would be more beneficial. Don't be afraid to give your opinion. The client can always say no and get you to do exactly what they want, but more than most likely, they'll really appreciate your input and it'll go a long way to building that relationship with your clients. So that's what I wanted to talk about this week. How when you're working with clients, try to be more than just their graphic designer. Become their partner, become a sounding board, become an idea generator. They and your business will greatly benefit from it. Now, next week's podcast, I hope to get it out a little bit earlier than I did this week. But next week, I'll be talking about working on retainer. Now, before I go, I'm happy to announce that I do have another question of the week. And this question came in from Terry. Terry wrote, "Hi, Mark. Thanks for all the great content you continually produce. I have a quick question for you. I have some vacation time coming up, and I was wondering, how do you handle things while you're out? Inevitably, it seems like a client will always have an unexpected revision they ask me to do or need a file from me out of the blue. Do you have any experience in this at all? And if so, how do you handle such situations? Thanks again, Terry. Well, Terry, to answer one part of your question, I don't think there's any graphic designer that's running their own business out there who doesn't have any sort of experience in this sort of thing. It's inevitable. There's always going to be something to be done, whether you're there or not. So my answer to your question, don't worry about it. You're entitled to take vacation, and your clients will understand. They might gripe about it. They may even seem a little upset at first, but they will get over it. They understand because they have to take vacations as well. Now, things are a little bit different if you're working for yourself, like I am, and there's nobody else to pick up the slack. Like if you go away for 2 weeks, then that means your business is closed for 2 weeks. But as I said, your clients will understand that. They came to you, they know what you're capable of doing. And if they were worried about that sort of thing, they wouldn't have come to you in the first place. So I'll tell you what I do in these situations. Whenever it comes times for vacation, I will let my current clients, that's clients I'm currently doing projects for, currently working on something for them, I will let them know a couple of weeks in advance that I will be going on holiday. Now, if there's any sort of deadlines or anything involved beforehand, usually you know your holidays well in advance. So you can work that into the schedule. If somebody needs something for a certain time, you can tell them right off the bat, well, I'm away these 2 weeks, and see if they can either push their deadline out or if you can somehow work it in to get it done before you're gone. But in those situations, you usually have plenty of time to work it out. But what I usually do is a couple of weeks before I go, I'll let my clients, and as I said, just the clients that I'm currently working on stuff. If you're not currently working on a project for a client, there's no sense telling the client that you're going to be away. And when you do let your clients know, remember back in episode 28, secrets you should keep from your graphic design clients, I talked about when you're taking vacation, don't tell your clients that you'll be taking vacation. Just tell your clients you'll be out of the office. They don't need to know what you're doing. Unless it's a really, really good client you really, really trust or whatever, and you feel like you have to tell them. But I don't tell my clients I'm going on vacation. I just let my clients know that I'll be out of the office between such and such a date, and I'll be back in the office on this date. And once you tell them, there's not much they can do about it. Some clients will try to hit you up with work before you go and say, can you get this done? I know you're leaving on Friday. Can you quickly get this done? And be honest with them. If you can, do it. But if you can't, just tell them, no, I'm too busy. I'm sorry. I would love to help, but I can't. If you want, I can have a look at it when I get back to the office, but I can't handle it this week. If you can handle it, great, but don't take on more than you can just because you feel guilty because you're going away. You shouldn't feel guilty about taking holidays. And then for other clients who you're not currently doing work for, just change the message on your voicemail and set up some out-of-office autoresponders on your emails. And that should be good enough. If they try calling you, they'll get a message saying you're out of the office until such and such a date. Or if they try emailing you, they'll get the same sort of message and they'll understand. Is it possible that you might lose some business? Yes, it is, but that's just part of it. You can't be in the office all the time. As I said, clients will understand. I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast how I took last week off. Now that was completely unexpected. I found out late Friday evening that my brother had passed. And I made arrangements over the weekend and flew out to Vancouver on Monday morning. So I barely had a chance to tell my clients I was leaving. On Monday morning, I did send out just a quick email to a couple of clients that I was working on stuff. And I just apologized. I just told them, sorry, something came up and I will be out of the office for the week. And I apologize for any inconvenience. Now, in that situation, I did tell them what was going on. I didn't want to just say, hey, I'm out of the office and leave them high and dry. I did explain to them that my brother had passed and I had to fly to Vancouver to go to the funeral. And the responses I got from every client, even ones that had deadlines that week, were, don't worry about it, Mark. We'll handle it. We'll work something out. You go be with your family. So as I said, Terry, clients are very understanding. A lot of the times it's more stressful on you knowing you're going to be taking this time off and what's going to happen. And I've found over the years that a lot of clients that say they need something by a certain day don't necessarily actually need it for that day. I don't know how many times a client has asked me, is there any way you can get this done by Friday? And if I tell them, no, I can't, the earliest I could get it done is probably the following Friday. And they come back with saying, yep, that'll be fine. It just goes to show you that a lot of times these deadlines clients give you are not true deadlines. So I hope that answers your question, Terry. So let your current clients, the one you're currently working on projects for, let them know that you'll be out of the office. And the other clients you have that you're not currently working on, don't worry about them. Just set up your autoresponders and set up a voicemail saying that you're out of the office and you're good. Go take your vacation, relax, refuel, come back invigorated, and get back to business. If it does cause a stir for a client, they'll get over it. Or at least that's the way I've always seen it in all the years I've been in business. So thank you very much for that question, Terry. I really appreciate it. If you would like to send me a question for future use on the episode, you can do so by visiting my feedback form at resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback or by sending me an email at feedback@resourcefuldesigner.com. So that's it for this episode. I would like to remind you and ask for your help once again in nominating Resourceful Designer for a podcast award. Just visit resourcefuldesigner.com/podcast awards and enter Resourceful Designer under the arts category with the URL resourcefuldesigner.com. And feel free to nominate any other podcasts in the other categories that you listen to. So I hope you're doing well in your graphic design business, and I look forward to talking again with you next week. I'm Mark Decote. Until then, stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer Podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.